Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to this AM special episode of The Megyn Kelly Show. The left and the media do not get it. Why Trump was able to win in such spectacular and dominant fashion, winning the popular vote by millions and winning the Electoral College 312 to 226 total blowout. So what is the reason? Well, one reason is the subject of my guest's book, Second Class: How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Men and Women. Batya Ungar-Sargon joins me now. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. Trust in the media is at an all-time low. Can you blame them? Let's be honest. There's very good reason for this. We're all seeing how stories can be shaped or buried or killed or manipulated, depending on who's in charge. And this is why I want to tell you about a platform that does not play by those rules. One that prioritizes transparency above all else. Listen to this. The platform's called Ground News, an app and website that gathers related articles from around the world in one place, highlighting each source's political bias and corporate influence. And they show you stories that are underreported by one side of the political spectrum. A recent Gallup survey showed declining trust in mass media, and guess who didn't cover it? Left-leaning media. On Ground News, more than 80% of the coverage of this story is coming from right-leaning sources. Ground News has an entire blind spot feed with stories like this that are receiving lopsided coverage. And my viewers get 50% off their Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to their website and to their app. They are independent. They are supported by subscribers, not corporate interests. Check them out at groundnews.com/Megyn. That's ground, G-R-O-U-N-D, news.com/Megyn. To take back control of the news you consume. I'm joined now by Batya Ungar-Sargon, author of Second Class, who revealed today that she voted for Trump. I'm not surprised to hear that, given the way you've spent your past couple of years and the groups that you've been interacting with and focusing on. Sometimes you understand that they need the right leader for the right time. And maybe in another world, somebody like Oprah or J-Lo or Taylor Swift could look beyond their own concerns about keeping their Montecito mansions and their ability to abort their babies and think about those guys and like how we might help them. But no, today is not that day. They will have to be brought to heel on the messaging, Batya. So what do you make of it? There was a piece in the New York Post today, and I totally agree with it, saying this is the death of the celebrity endorsement.
Oh, absolutely, Megyn. But I think it goes so much deeper than that. You know, Wall Street favored Kamala Harris over Donald Trump by 75% to 25%. It's not just the celebrities. It's not just the rich glitterati from Hollywood. It's the elites overall. I mean, you just have to open a newspaper, turn on cable news to one of the liberal channels and to see the weeping, the funereal, atmosphere there. This was an election that revealed finally that the real divide in America is not racial. It's not even political. It is the class divide separating the American working class from the elites. And this is why millions and millions and millions of working class Americans who were Democrats, Megyn, 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 5 years ago, voted for Donald Trump, because the American working class is unbelievably tolerant. They are deeply patriotic. They are radical moderates, and they are struggling. That is who Donald Trump spoke to and ended up picking off a lot of Democratic voters because his agenda spoke directly to the character of the American working class.
But instead of trying to understand that, you get Stephen Colbert and the others out there going, well, this was bad for women, it was bad for children, it was bad for poor people, and it was bad for you, Trump voters. If only you weren't too stupid to know. You're going to find out how bad this was for you. Completely clueless, and it's not surprising to see him struggling, Gutfeld soaring, but not just Gutfeld. Dave Portnoy weighed in, and he's got this huge empire over at Barstool Sports, and definitely, I think he comes from the left. I don't think this is a Republican guy. I mean, he was defending abortion rights. Yeah, he comes from the left. Listen to him.
Their pure arrogance and their moral superiority have driven people away. If you say you're voting for Trump, suddenly you're a Nazi, you're Hitler, you're garbage. Enough. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's racists in the party, just like there's fucking crazy people and assholes and racists in the Democratic Party, all right? But millions and millions and millions and millions of people vote for Trump. He won clear, he won decisive. So when you call us that, and when you say that, you're calling the majority of the country racist, Hitlers, Nazis. I don't think you get the words of what that means. You are alienating all this middle ground people by acting like you're better than us, smarter than us, and frankly, insulting our intelligence. They got to look themselves in the mirror. This moral superiority complex they have, this arrogance they have, it's not working. It's time to wake up and see that. You're alienating half the country, more of it. Wake up, move on.
Or keep losing. But can they?
It's such a great question. It's so funny. Stephen Colbert actually uttered the words, "Today is the day the American people voted against democracy." Like, literally cannot tell that he is describing democracy when saying what he really means is they voted against my interests as a millionaire. That is what they really mean. And it's so amazing they're admitting it, Megyn. Donald Trump said again and again, they don't hate me. They hate you, the American people. And now you have all of these leftists coming out and saying, you know, it's not about Trump. It's about the American people, right? They truly do hate the American people. I do think that there is a real question of policy here at stake, though. It's less about the fact that smearing people as Hitler lovers and racists is terrible politics. Of course, that's true. But I don't think that's why the majority of Hispanic men broke for Trump. I think it has to do with the fact that Donald Trump lifted the Democrats' pro-labor agenda right out from under their noses. You know, the Democrats used to support labor, they used to support the working class, and they used to believe in a strong border, you know, trade deals that favored American workers. They were socially moderate, right? Abortions should be safe, legal, and rare. And they also believed in being anti-war. Who does that sound like today? That is not the Democrats' position today. That is Donald Trump's agenda. And that is why the reason Donald Trump won is the same reason that Kamala Harris lost, because there is a winning formula for the American working class: anti-war, free trade only to the extent that it helps the American worker, strong borders, and socially moderate positions. That used to be the Democrats' agenda, and now it is Trump's. And I am just begging the GOP to recognize this, because if they don't, they're going to lose all of these voters when this comes up again.
It's amazing. Yeah, Democrats. It's amazing to see the amount of tears flowing, like Jimmy Kimmel in tears on his show over like half of the country voting and getting what they want, just not his half. That's why, and so he's crying. He's crying for himself. He doesn't have the power he thought he did. He's not alone. It's women like this that make me want to celebrate the tears, that make me have absolutely no sympathy or empathy for these tears. This is Dr., I think I'm using that term loosely, Arlene. And she decided to do a little post on X that's now gone viral. It was, I think, the day of the vote, and she had a little interaction with a sales clerk, and she decided to post about it. Watch this woman. She's a political science professor, she says.
Been tracking everything that's been going on across the country today, and my most important encounter was when I went out to get my champagne. I was talking to the guy in the store, of course, asking him, did he vote? And he said he did early voting, and he asked me if I early voted. And he asked me, you know, why I was getting the champagne. And I said, because I'm going to be toasting Madam President tonight. And he just looked at me with kind of like a smirk on his face. And I said, you know, she's going to win this, right? And he says, oh, well, it's very, very close. And I said, no, it's not. He says, well, what do you mean? I said, no, it's not. The women of America are making their voices heard. Reproductive rights is what it all comes down to. And I said to him, she's going to take every one of the swing states plus Iowa. And he said, oh, but the numbers are so close. I said, I'm a political analyst. I'm telling you right now, the numbers are there. She's taking this election. And then I said to him, you realize, and he didn't tell me who he voted for, but of course I knew. And I said, you do realize you wasted your vote, right? And I didn't care. And I walked out with my bottle of champagne and happily walked home. Bye-bye.
Dr. Arlene, you can take your champagne and shove it up because your snobbery, your absolute elitism is on. I'm a political analyst, you dumbass sales clerk. You wasted your vote. And now we just checked her feed to see after the election. It was never about them or their supreme qualifications. It was about misogyny, racism, hate, and fascism. Of course. Oh, we have that? Oh, here's more of Dr. Arlene.
It is an incredibly sad day, heartbreaking for everyone.
Arlene, buck up.
And when I look back at my entire analysis of this, all of the analysis, 120 years worth of elections, is based on men running for office, not women. Because there's no data. And Hillary Clinton everybody hated Hillary Clinton, that America is not ready for a female president. And
that's it.
Not anytime soon. It will be decades from now. And that's a damn shame, because Kamala Harris was the best candidate in this race. And she was the best for America.
The odds of Arlene having gone back to the sales clerk and apologized for her disgusting arrogance are very slim, Batya.
That first clip really had it all. You know, the credentialism that inflated the ego of this very tiny person. This is a woman, if she's a college professor who's probably making $150,000 a year, sneering at and talking down to a person working in a store, a clerk, right? Who has the grace not to inform her who he voted for, because he doesn't need to stick it to her, right? So here's a working class person showing all of the grace in the world to this condescending, sneering elitist who then uses the lens of racism and misogyny as an alibi for the fact that not only did this person not just accept her sneering contempt as marching orders for who to vote for, right? But the fact that he refused to vote for the person who is going to create a world that is good for her bottom line. Yeah. This is the point that I just want to keep making, which is the elites created an economy that made Dr. Arlene rich. And that nice guy who just took it from her is now struggling to pay his bills. And that is really what Donald Trump is a corrective to.
It was like Sunny Hostin yesterday on The View. Like, I'm very worried. I'm worried about my daughter. She has less civil rights than I have. Fewer, should have been. She doesn't have the same civil rights as I do. And I'm deeply worried about my daughter. Meanwhile, Sunny Hostin lives in a sprawling multi-million-dollar estate because she's Sunny Hostin. At least her son got into Harvard. I'm sure her daughter's probably there too. She herself went to Notre Dame. She's lived a privileged life. And still, not unlike Michelle Obama or Oprah, what she wants to do is just dump on America. That this is a place where you don't get equal civil rights because of race, because of gender, if I don't get what I want.
Right, that's exactly right. They use accusations of racism and sexism as an alibi for a country that has been crafted as an upward funnel of wealth into the pockets of people like Sunny Hostin, away from the people that she employs, right? That's what the open border is. It is a way for credentialed elites to get rich off of the labor of illegals because they don't have to employ American workers. And if American workers objected to that, as they did in 2016 by voting for Donald Trump, they called them deplorables and racists. And this time around, they called them Nazis. It is an alibi for wage theft by the elites of the working class. And that is what Donald Trump is a corrective to. It's why he has cobbled together a mass populist movement, the multiracial working class coalition that now is the popular vote. It's the most incredible thing. What a victory for democracy, for the will of the people, for the working class.
So they can't quite get their arms around the fact that his coalition is diverse, that it's multi-ethnic. And this is Joy Reid in her struggle session to try to explain why he got 45% of Latinos on Tuesday night. Sade.
Coming from an immigrant family, there is this sort of trying to be super American.
Totally.
When people come here, because I know some African immigrants who are all the way Trump. And it's this idea of I want to be with the side that's waving the biggest flag. I want to fit in. And there is a huge element, to be honest, of anti-blackness in a lot of this. Anti-black Americanness specifically. And there's this idea that I'm black, but I'm not black. I may look black to you. I may be black if I'm walking through Bloomingdale's and get followed around. But in my mind, I'm identifying with whiteness because whiteness means privilege and it means not being a black American. This has to be unpacked because this shift among Latino men is significant, and it says something about where we're going in this country.
Got it? Latinos are anti-black. They want to be white. That's why they voted for Trump.
My friend Zed Jelani said on Twitter, why is it that these leftists always sound like rival Lebanese militia groups? You know, this one's the real evil one. You know, this ethnicity is the one we should be attacking. It's so insane. You have to really hate America to talk that way. I mean, and that is what she's effectively saying, is that to love America, to be an immigrant who comes here and wants this country to be the best it can possibly be, that is somehow evil and racist. No, it is evil and racist to say that minorities have to vote a specific way. The reason Latinos broke for Trump is because he creates an amazing economy that lifts up the bottom. It is literally a wave that elevates the working class.
The October 15th deadline has come and gone. Are you prepared for what's coming? Do you still owe back taxes? Are your tax returns still unfiled? I know that stress. Maybe you missed the deadline to file for an extension. Now that October 15th is in the rear view, the IRS may be ramping up enforcement, and you could face wage garnishments, frozen bank accounts, or even property seizures if you have not yet taken action. But there's hope. Tax Network USA has helped taxpayers save over $1 billion in tax debt and has filed over 10,000 tax returns. They specialize in helping people reduce their tax burdens. So visit tnusa.com/Megyn, tnusa.com/Megyn, or just call 1-800-958-1000 for a free consultation. Their experts will walk you through a few simple questions to see how much you could save. Give it a try now before the IRS takes more aggressive steps. Take control. Visit tnusa.com/Megyn or call 1-800-958-1000. So I forgot to say earlier, another loser in this election is Joe Scarborough. Joe Scarborough has to be high up the list on the list of losers in addition to Kamala Harris. He backed Joe Biden. He lied to us. He was conspirator number one on the Joe Biden lies about his mental acuity up to the very last second because he wanted to hold on to his access to power. It was so fun to be the president's friend. And then the switcheroo happened. The American public saw what happened at that debate. And then the next day, Sybil showed up on the set of Morning Joe saying, he's got to go to save the party. Yeah, it's obvious. Hello, right? Anyway, then swoops in Kamala Harris. And now she's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Yes, we've got to get behind Kamala Harris. 100% we got to go for Kamala. And, you know, she's going to deliver. She's going to continue Joe Biden's great economy. He's been the greatest president ever. Trust me, you people, you working class suffering people. I know better. This is a great economy. Trust me, inflation doesn't matter. This is a great thing. It's roaring. Reelect. Then he loses, or she loses. And he comes out and says, I've been telling you all along that, you know, this social stuff that you're putting the country through is a loser. That she was going to lose because of the social, like, what? He's truly Sybil and therefore a loser. However, I've got to show you this. There was a big reveal today that Joe Scarborough does not know anything about the economy he's been telling us is so amazing under Biden-Harris because he is one of those elites who has absolutely fallen out of touch with how real Americans live. It was shown in the following exchange over something as simple as the cost of butter on their show today.
I want to talk about economy for a second. A few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, somebody who was going to be voting for Kamala Harris came up to me and said, "Oh, my God, Trump's going to win." I go, "Why is that?" He goes, I went to the grocery store. Butter's over $3. I kind of laughed and I said, Well, that's kind of reductive, isn't it? Said it to myself. To him, I smiled and I said, good point. But it actually, everything we're hearing after the election is...
I'm just saying, the $7.
What's that?
The $7.
What's that? Butter is $7?
He says, does it have a gold frame around it? He has no idea. When was the last time Joe Scarborough went to the grocery store? I mean, I probably never. I go to the grocery store. I'm there all the time. I see a lot of the listeners of my show at my one in Connecticut, and we laugh and we bond and all that. If you're in Connecticut, check me out. Anyway, Batya, the point is, he's one of the biggest losers of this election, and it's because he falls into that same exact category we've been discussing, like Stephen Colbert and Dr. Arlene and the rest of them.
It's so amazing because it was such a revealing moment, but there have been moments in between, moments like that, even on Morning Joe, where they have admitted the truth. So there was a big screed by Joe Scarborough about how cancel culture is unacceptable. Did you know, Megyn, that they have been canceling people? And how terrible is this? And there was a guest who was saying, actually, like millions of low-wage immigrants crossing the border illegally is bad for the working class. We are officially in the 4-week period that follows from crushing Democratic loss, in which you're allowed to say the things. They always do this. They did this in 2016 as well. There was like 4 weeks where you were allowed to say the things, the truth that everybody knows. And it happened as well after Glenn Youngkin won in this like crushing loss to the Democrats, where suddenly they say the things that everybody knows is true. And then after 4 weeks, they go back to denial and they go back to blaming racism and sexism, and everyone climbs for power again. But that's how you know that they are lying, because there is always this little window where the things are allowed to be said.
And it's always 4 weeks, just like with Biden's mental acuity. We had 4 weeks of an honest press corps genuinely reporting on it, and then they managed to get him out, and they went right back to being just as dishonest as ever. So that's why, like, I had Piers on earlier, Morgan, and he was saying this is officially the death of the woke mind virus. And I was saying, well, is it? I mean, it's suffered a terrible defeat. I mean, the American electorate has said, we hate it. We're not on board with it. But I don't know that it's extractable. Just like RFKJ's brain worm, he says he got. I don't know if you can get it out. I think you're right. They learned all these lessons back in 2016.
Yeah.
That we were getting more woke. I asked Trump about his language about women at a very famous presidential debate, and he said, we've gotten too politically correct. That's what we used to call this. And then political correctness exploded into wokeness. People knew that he was a backlash to it. I don't think they are going to change anything.
The thing that they have to change if they ever want to win again is immigration policy. Now, remember, it used to be the Democrats who believed that we had to have a strong border to protect the wages of working class people, because labor is like everything else. It adheres to the law of supply and demand. The more you have of it, the cheaper it is. And we should want American workers to make a living wage. That was the economy that Donald Trump built. When Donald Trump showed up on the scene and closed that border and working class wages started to go up, the Democratic Party reformulated itself in opposition to him. And the major donors of the party, people like George Soros, who don't believe in borders and don't believe in nation states, they really turbocharged that. So there was this kind of symbiotic relationship between the far left, the wokes, and then the donor class, which were all pushing for open borders. And of course, Alejandro Mayorkas showed up and said, I'm the man for that job, right? Totally open
so
the
did
border,
someone
right?
call me?
Exactly. And so that here is the question. I think that on the woke excesses in universities, it is possible that we will start to see some sort of course correction. I think on the gender stuff, thanks to your work, Megyn, which has been so important, I think we're already going to start seeing some correction. The real question is on immigration. Can they go back to their position on immigration from the 90s and the 2000s? Bernie Sanders, as recently as 2015, was saying open borders is a Koch brothers proposal. And I think that is where they will not be able to go back to their former self, because the donor class is too entrenched. I think what we're going to see in 2028 is this. We're going to see people like Gretchen Whitmer, who represents the Kamala Harris version of the party, in a primary against somebody like Josh Shapiro, who, Megyn, only lost the white working class in Pennsylvania by 2 points. So he is really a Democrat who has shown the working class, that he can speak to them and like them. That's going to be the really interesting interstitial fight to watch on the Democratic side, and to see which way the DNC allows the party to go. One direction obviously is going to be much more fruitful for them, but I don't know if they have the stomach to go with the white Jewish guy over the woman.
That's right. Speaking of Bernie Sanders, he put out the following statement, reads in part as follows. It should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned working class people would find that the working class has abandoned them. First, it was the white working class, and now it is Latino and Black workers as well. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change, and they're right. Wow. I mean, that could have been issued by a Trump surrogate.
Yeah, my question to Bernie is, in 2015, you understood that the number one issue when it comes to the economy for working class people is immigration. And by 2019, when you were running in that primary against Donald Trump, and the question on the debate was, would you decriminalize illegal border crossing? You raised your hand to say yes. What changed for you? And do you regret that? Do you understand that the workers that you so deeply care about, and I believe you that you care about them, that this issue is very important to them, and that this is where the Democratic Party really needs to go if they want those voters back?
He was doing what he said Kamala Harris was doing in this race. You know, he acknowledged that she's just got to say what she has to say to get elected. And he's a politician too. I think he has a genuine concern for blue collar, working class people. But he on that stage had to say what he thought they wanted to hear. I want to shift gears and talk to you about Kamala, because I mean, I really love how obviously her team is out there leaking to Politico that it's all the fault of Joe Biden, that he really caused this collapse. How could she possibly have dug out of this hole, as David Plouffe put it? And I said earlier, you know, sure, yeah, Joe Biden caused many holes with the inflation numbers, with the immigration and the open border. She was part of it. And then with staying too long with the mental acuity, she was part of that too. She's not blameless on any of that. But Kamala Harris was a uniquely bad politician. There's just absolutely nothing to connect to with this woman. But not if you ask Claire McCaskill. Now, I'm going to play you this soundbite. This person is in la la land about Kamala Harris's alleged talents, but take a listen to yet another crier, Claire McCaskill.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud of her. I don't think people realize how hard it is to get to where she was. For her to be selected as vice president after what I think she would tell you was a very disappointing presidential race, where I think she kind of lost her footing and was listening too much to consultants, frankly, and it didn't really exude who she was. And then to be vice president and to step into the most difficult situation in the world, where she had to be completely loyal to Joe Biden and respectful of the fact that he had chosen her, but yet maneuver in a situation, I mean, such political skill. It is just inspiring. People who don't understand what she had to do to get to this moment. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just very proud of her.
I mean, she was treated like female Jesus. Like, she's making it sound like poor Kamala Harris. All his problems were her problems, too. She was part of the administration. And then when the coup happened, Batya, she was anointed. That Democratic National Convention, Brett Summer, a completely compliant, complicit media covering for her at every turn. Oh, boo-hoo, poor Kamala. She had Are you kidding me?
Megyn, I sort of made this vow to myself after Trump won that I was going to try to be big and generous and, you know, not gloat and not. You're making it very hard because you brought all of the deplorable videos into the video. And it's impossible not to feel like so vindicated from this nonsense. These people who had so much power. Here's my latest theory about Harris. I'm curious what you think about this, Megyn. I have this theory that if she had come out the gate and said, look, I'm not an ideological person. believe in anything very strongly. I want to be president and I want to reflect what you guys want. So on each issue, we're going to poll the American people. Whatever gets 60% support, I'm going to do. Because honestly, I don't really care. I've been all over the place. I think she would have gotten a lot farther because it would have been honest and authentic to who she is. But instead, she went into it pretending to have these very deep-seated convictions that everybody knows she doesn't have because she ran for office in 2019 on the opposite platform. You know, Andrew Yang wrote this great op-ed for Newsweek. He said something so smart. He said in every interview, she looked like she was thinking, what should I say instead of what do I believe? And I think that just put his finger on he hit the nail on the head. That was the problem with her, is she seemed to be always calculating what is the thing to say to get elected. And it was such a stark contrast with Donald Trump, who obviously says what he believes all the time. I mean, Megyn, remember that rally in the Bronx? He was so authentic, facing a sea of people who everybody had told him hate him, who, by the way, he swung the Bronx 22 points. Like, Republicans, show up. Show up. Love the people. Love the American people. They will love you back.
So well said. I love the Andrew Yang line. He's 100% right. And when you were saying it, it reminded me of this moment we showed the audience when it happened after she went on Colbert. And she seemed to glitch, like right in the middle of the answer, probably for this reason. Here it is.
Polling shows that a lot of people, especially independent voters, really want this to be a change election, and that they tend to break for you in terms of thinking about change. You are a member of the President's administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of... But also, I think it's important to say with 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people. We have aspirations. We have dreams. We have incredible work ethic. And I just believe that we can create and build upon the success we've achieved in a way that we continue to grow opportunity and in that way grow the strength of our nation.
Is it over? God.
Yes, someone tweeted last week that she seems like a fourth grader giving a book report on a book that they didn't read, and I think that there's something about that that's really
look. You can see her glitching. What major changes would you bring? Well, I'm not Joe Biden, and I'm not Donald Trump. Oh, like she thought of. Oh, I'm on a roll here. Here I go. I'm on a roll. No, I'm neither man. And so I really think, and then it's the glitch. Like, what should I say? What should I say? Like Andrew Yang. Like, what should I say? I don't know what I should say. I don't know how I'm supposed to be different from Joe Biden. Who am I? And then insert nonsense lines that are pre-rehearsed that we've all heard 10,000 times.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the issue that she ultimately settled on as her one issue was abortion. And the way they went out, like to try to convince women that this was going to be the issue was so amazing because, Megyn, what they did was they talked about it in a totally fake way. Like they built it up into this made up problem, right? That there's going to be a national abortion ban, which Trump promised repeatedly that he would veto. And there's zero reason to suspect that he's lying about that. He believes abortion should be legal for 12 weeks. So he has no reason to lie about that. So their one winning issue was totally fake and made up. Whereas Trump was running on the disappearing American dream for working class Americans, which is totally real. So you had the Obamas go out there berating Black men and Hispanic men, show up for your women folk for this fake problem that allows rich women to feel like they are the true oppressed class in America, right? This made up problem.
So right on.
And what ended up happening was working class women showed up for their husbands and their sons and said, we're going to stand by you because this country has turned its back on you. And I find that to be very moving.
Yes, me too. Those are the women I was trying to reach when I spoke at the Trump rally. Like, don't listen to this bullshit messaging about what's best for women and what's best for children and what's best for America. You know, asking, like, how do you win when your son or your husband are losing? This is a lie that is being peddled by political hacks on the other side. The Kamala Harris problem is so multifaceted. I mean, like, I can't really think of anything that's good about her and her candidacy. I've said before, she has pretty hands. That's something.
She's very good looking. We could admit that. She's a good looking woman.
She's fine. Yeah. I'm just thinking about like things that I look at her and I admire. Like, she has lovely hands. They're nice. She's got whatever. Okay. She decided to go for the profundity yet again in her concession speech, which, I mean, there are things I'm going to miss about her, Batya. I'm going to miss her fake profundities. I'm going to miss her accents. I'm going to miss her preacher. Joy cometh in the morning. I'm going to miss that. But she gave me one last parting gift. Check it out.
There's an adage an historian once called a law of history. True of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service.
And there it is. It's amazing. She's so proud of herself. Like, you can tell she's like, I've got something for you. As someone once said, the sun rises in the east. and later at night, we see the billions of stars. Yeah. And then they clap. They're confused. They're clapping because she seems to be done. Batya, come on. Like, I love all the pretend games about how, like, tough economy and Joe Biden. To ignore the elephant in the room is to continue the dishonesty that we've been facing with this press.
Honestly, it really is something to admire, I think. I feel like I know her less than I did before she ran for president. Like, I know even less about what makes her tick, what makes her get up in the morning. Why did she do this? Why does she say that? Why does she act like that? Like, she has managed in some ways to shroud herself in even more mystery, which I think is a really big accomplishment for somebody who spent, 100 days trying to tell us who she is.
What do you think is going to happen to her now? I asked Don Jr. this earlier. Do you think that she is in any way the de facto leader of the Democrat Party?
No, I think people are going to run as far as they can from the Bidens and from Harris, and the will to power in the Democratic Party runs so deep. And I think right now she's going to, these people who were forced to lie about her. Something happens to your soul when you're forced to lie about someone. Of course, nobody forced them except themselves and their own will to, ascend the power hierarchy, right? But, they're such a laughingstock now as a party. Every person who lied on her behalf, that is going to sour very quickly, like we said, 4 weeks. And then I think she's going to become somewhat untouchable in the party. The Obamas, I think, have lost a lot of power. The Obamas and Pelosi really bet the farm that this was going to work, this coup. And I think it's been so revealed how little they understand the American people, how little they respect the American people, how little they respect the democracy that they demagogue about. They hate the American people because the American people hate them because they see them for what they are. They see the contempt that these elites have for them. And I think that that is what has been really revealed this election cycle.
There's no more grown-up in the Democratic Party. There's no leader. There's no heir apparent. It's like that show Party of Five. The parents died. Now the children are just running around. There's nobody to watch them. Like, who's going to watch them? There's not even an identifiable big brother type to step in and sort of hold their hands and shepherd them along. There's nobody. I mean, maybe it's certainly not going to be Tampon Tim. I mean, like, maybe Josh Shapiro. Who do they have? I got nothing. There wasn't even like a top surrogate. All those stars have been embarrassed. Those guys aren't it. The Obamas, no. And you know what's actually really interesting, Batya, a point that we didn't get to today is she's reportedly, her campaign, bankrupt. She she was given $1 billion by all these hopeful Democrats to run this campaign in the course of like a month or two. And the reports are out today that she's reportedly $20 million in the hole. They spent it all. They were paying those celebrities to show up at her rallies and try to fill those arenas with enthusiastic fans. And they spent so much, they wound up with absolutely nothing, with fewer counties by far than Joe Biden won. They have lost the Senate. They have lost the White House. And we'll find out whether they've lost any chance of taking the House. I mean, worst investment ever. So, I mean, back to our original point, I guess, like, keep doing the same thing. If you want the same results, you could just keep flushing $1 billion down the drain every 2 years and then 4. Or you could change and you can actually bend the knee on the issues that are most important to the American people, never mind Republicans. Like you say, let's start with immigration. Let's start with boys and girls sports. Let's start with actually doing something about the drunken spending the Democrats did that still have prices too high. That last one's going to be the trickiest to fix for President Trump. So anyway, your forecast on the next, not 4 years, but 2, and what's going to happen when Trump takes office. Did these Democrats feel humbled enough by the message they received on Tuesday to try to work with him? Or is it just, once we're past the 4 weeks, back to norm?
I think politicians are going to want to work with him, especially on the issues that it's clear voters hate where they have ended up, where the Democrats have ended up on. You touched on something that I think is the most underreported story of this election cycle, which is Harris outspent Trump by astronomical numbers. Nikki Haley outspent Trump 2-1 in the Republican primary. American democracy is so robust and healthy. I mean, I remember thinking Citizens United was like the end, Megyn. Like, we're never going to have a free election again. The will of the people is done. I mean, how wrong I was. It turns out you can spend $1 billion, $1.2 billion. I think you're right. She's 20 million in the hole, something like that, on an election and win spectacularly against somebody who's spending a fraction of that amount.
And lose spectacularly.
And lose spectacularly. I mean, what an amazing, amazing thing to learn about our nation, that our systems work, our institutions work, and the will of the people comes out. The will of the electorate is what happens, is who gets elected. It's really, I really hope that even people who don't like Trump, who didn't want him to win, can recognize this for what it is. It is a mandate to lead from your fellow Americans. We should all be able to respect that and even admire it.
Change is coming. I absolutely believe that Trump and this Senate and hopefully the House too can get real change pushed through legislatively that could last long beyond the Trump administration. But we do have to watch those House races. It's not over and it's not comfortable. Batya, what a pleasure. Great to see you.
Thank you so much, Megyn. God bless you.
Oh, you too, my friend. Okay, we are back later today with Charlie Kirk. I mean, is there anybody besides maybe Elon that did more to get Trump elected than Charlie did? I just, like, what a debt of gratitude the nation owes him. And we will also have Glenn Greenwald. He's been on fire on X this week, taking down these hack so-called journalists. It's going to be fun. See you then.